This presentation reviews the basic themes in our thinking that lead to stress, anxiety, depression, frustration, and anger. Albert Ellis, along with Aaron Beck, is considered the founder of cognitive therapy. Ellis emphasized that fundamental irrational beliefs cause emotional and behavioral problems. He also emphasized that we're all prone to activate these irrational beliefs. Today, we recognize that the universal irrational beliefs he discussed are based on survival adaptations that are built into the design of the human brain. If we insist or demand that these beliefs come true, we will be upset in many ways, and how upset we become is often based on how intensively we demand these irrational beliefs. Our basic drive to survive has left us with characteristic patterns in processing the world. We naturally scan our environment for problems or negative events with a view to correcting or fixing the problems. Generally, our emotional reaction to a negative event is several times greater than our response to an equally valued positive event. People will generally be more upset noticing they've lost $20 than happy if they find $20. Scanning for problems and reacting strongly was once very adaptive for our survival. The environment was at one time filled with daily dangers and frequent life and death challenges. Today, we've created a modern world where significant dangers have become rare. But our natural vigilance for problems can lead to a negative mental filter on the world. We also naturally react with an urgency to fix the problems we see, and frequently become unnecessarily upset when we fail. The tendency to scan for problems and react strongly when problems are found has led to the number one irrational belief. And that is that I should be perfect, never flawed. And if not, I'm no good at all, a failure, unworthy. The tendency to activate this belief resides in all of us. But if it's cultivated, it becomes the root of depression and self-downing. They say that nobody is perfect. Then they tell you that practice makes perfect. I wish they'd make up their minds, Winston Churchill. In order to survive, it was at one time necessary to find and correct every problem. This protective instinct is why we're all prone to this irrational belief. But today we benefit from the realization that we're all flawed, fallible, and human, and nobody is perfect. The second major irrational belief that we are prone to is related to the fact that we're social beings. In the past, we lived in tribes of 50 to 150 people, and being a member of the tribe was essential to our survival. Banishment meant certain death. Rejection would have been horrible. Today, nobody likes rejection. We all prefer to be an accepted member of the group. But this natural tendency leads us to elevate that importance, leading to irrational belief number two. And that is that I must always be approved, loved, respected, appreciated. And if not, at times it feels like I will die. This tendency also resides in all of us. And again, if it's developed, we expect that we should be approved by everyone in all settings. And if not, we can believe it to be horrible, terrible, and awful. And this intensity leads to a variety of problems, including social anxiety, excessive approval seeking, and at times self-downing. This drive to be accepted was easier to achieve in the past because the members of the group were relatively consistent over their entire lifespan. Today, groups keep changing, from our earliest daycare groups, different classes and teachers in elementary school, changing again in high school, college, and the workforce, and when we move from one neighborhood to another. Adapting socially in this world has become more complex with advances in technology, electronic communication, and social media. Widespread media and internet access to what appear to be ideal social connections raise our expectations for perfect social adaptation. So although we are frequently anxious about the possibility of rejection and upset if we're not approved, the modern-day consequences of failing to get universal approval are not as dire as it often feels. When living in a complex social organization, it becomes a critical survival skill to be able to identify your enemies and find who you can trust as an ally. Major factor in the evolution of intelligence was the ability to detect flaws and deception in others. And this natural tendency leads to the third major irrational belief, and that is that others must be perfect, trustworthy, reliable, fair, and on my side. And anger and rage occur when this irrational demand is not met. This demand for others to perfectly conform to our ideas of fair, supportive, or trustworthy behavior intensifies when our status or resources are threatened. When we perceive that others are not members of our in-group or threaten the group, our demand and anger also rise. The fourth irrational belief. Generally, discomfort signals a problem. It's natural and wise to shy away from pain. If my hand is in the fire, the pain drives me to get it out as quickly as possible. Avoiding certain discomforts have been critical to survival. But there's also an implication that the opposite is true. Comfort is to be desired. We've started to cultivate the notion that discomfort is always to be avoided, and comfort is always desirable. And this leads to our fourth irrational belief. And that is that life must be perfect, always more comfortable, easier, more fair, a success, better. There are more comforts available today than at any time in the history of our existence. And while this is a good thing, adherence to the belief that we need comfort leads to what has widely been termed low frustration tolerance. Activating and operating on the principle that discomfort is to be avoided at all costs and comfort to be sought leads to the comment we often hear, "I can't stand it." Albert Ellis considered this one of the most prevalent modern-day irrational beliefs that our society promotes. He coined the term, "I can't stand it-itis." We are now learning that developing the ability to stand or tolerate inevitable difficulties and stresses that are encountered in life is healthy. And standing discomforts often build strength and resilience. In summary then, the principal founder of cognitive therapy, Albert Ellis, recognized four major themes in our modern approach to life that are at the root of most stress and distress. The first, I should or absolutely must always do well, never make mistakes. The second, I should or must always be approved, never criticized or rejected. The third, others should always be trustworthy, perfect. And the fourth, life should always be perfect, or I can't stand it. Almost all stress and distress can be traced to our implicit expectations and demands. These demands fall into the category of seeking perfection or always better in the areas of 1, ourself, 2, our relationships, 3, others around us, and 4, life in general. The goal is to achieve unconditional acceptance of ourselves, of others, our relationships, and life's hardships. Reducing our emotional distress with acceptance actually improves our ability to act effectively in the face of adversity. So it is true, if we change the way we see things, the things we see will change.